Well, howdy there, folks. Palantir stock is absolutely skyrocketing, up over 20% right now. Shopify stock is skyrocketing as well. Another one of my stocks right now. So we're going to react to a couple of videos here. One, this Palantir video. The second video up here is a Shopify video right here, which I'm very interested to get into. And then we'll cap it off with Steve Eisman and react to this one about kind of his views on the market going forward, the man from The Big Short. So, man, wild day. I just woke up not that long ago. I was up till like past 2 a.m. listening to conference calls. I listened to back to back conference calls last night, and that was coming off of a day where I recorded you guys a reaction video, plus I did a 3-hour live stream, and I recorded video on the main channel. So it was a busy day, and today's going to be a super busy one as well. So appreciate you guys joining me as always. I've barely even gotten to see the numbers so far from these companies. I will be diving deep into the numbers as well as reacting to Apple's earnings live on the live stream on Twitch here today. If you want access to that, check out the pinned comment down there, and you can get a bigger, fuller reaction from me definitely on that Twitch live stream. That's going to be a crazy one here today, okay? Alrighty, guys, let's go ahead and get into this.
Its results. Want to get straight over to Frank.
Oh, and by the way, let me just say congrats to all my other fellow Palantir bulls, right? It was a tough year last year, but hey, a lot of us that were buying the dip, we're looking pretty good. We're now up over 100% on the stock. It is now a double up.
Joins us now with some of those numbers and some comments from CEO Alex Karp.
Hey, good morning, Andrew. Over to you. We're looking at Palantir shares right now after a beat on the top line and a beat on the bottom line. Profit was 7 cents compared to the estimates of 6 cents per share. You can see shares are up just about 5% right now. Current quarter guidance also basically in line. This is also Palantir's fourth quarter of profitability, qualifying it for inclusion in the S&P 500. CEO Alex Karp, he told me yesterday it's very important to him because it makes the company more accessible and also widely held, as it would then be included in the SPY ETF. Karp also says that Palantir continues to work with the U.S. government, emphasized his support for Israel, and confirmed that Palantir works with the Israeli government. He added this about demand and outreach from governments. He said the rise in terrorism, it brings security to the forefront for America and its allies. The only way to effectively and
so right off the bat, I've hardly got to see these numbers yet. I haven't listened to Palantir conference call, but there's already something I'm noticing, okay? Clearly the stock was only up 4 to 5%. There must have been something big that happened on the conference call. Because the fact that that stock was only up 4 to 5% and now it's up 20+%, something big must have happened on that conference call.
Deal with terrorism in combat is to use software. Again, those are Alex Karp's words. Outside of government work, commercial is also the focus. U.S. commercial revenue, that jumped by 33%.
Wow.
Karp said he expects Palantir to be a major player in nearshoring and precision manufacturing, saying in part, we are now helping manufacturers bring manufacturing they would have done in Asia back to America, because with our product, you can build a factory in America just like it's built in Asia. Again, Palantir shares moving higher after a beat on the bottom line and the top line. Fourth quarter of profitability in a row, allowing inclusion in the S&P 500. One other note, Alex Karp's at the UK AI Summit today. He says Senator Schumer's office has also reached out about another meeting with U.S. companies on U.S. AI regulation. Back over to you.
Frank, it is a big switch for this company, because for a very long time, people were worried about whether they were going to continue to lose money. This Absolutely. Has been, as you said, now 4 quarters of it. But I was really struck by that last sentence in that letter that he wrote. You mentioned it, but just to detail it, he says, we are one of a few companies in the world to stand up and announce our support for Israel, which remains steadfast. Palantir stands with Israel, which is a very different remark and comment than a lot of other CEOs in the West. Some have condemned Hamas, but very few have actually come out publicly and said they support Israel as a country. Right. Of course, Palantir, run by Alex Karp, but backed by Peter Thiel and so many others.
Well, you can imagine that Palantir is not doing business with Hamas, and helping them.
That's for sure.
Well, I just want to be clear. Alex Karp made it clear that they work with the Israeli government, and he is steadfastly standing by Israel. And he made it very clear in his statement to me that he considers Hamas a terror group, as does the U.S. government, to be clear.
But what makes it so interesting is they also work with governments around the world, some of whom historically have been considered allies of America, except that they, at this particular juncture and moment, some of them are not supportive necessarily of what Israel is doing or of supporting Israel per se, right? I mean, I think we've seen a number of U.S. allies not be allied on this particular issue. And so it's a very interesting thing for him to come out as publicly as he has.
Although you've heard that what they say in public versus what they're saying, intimating in private. Saudi Arabia, for example.
Exactly.
I think they say certain things, and I think they might be less strident when they're talking to us.
100%. 100%
talks could be on track still with Saudi Arabia, we're hearing. Right?
On track with Saudi Arabia to have a new partnership with Israel?
With Israel and Abraham Accords, et cetera, et cetera. I don't...
Well, you can imagine they don't want to see
commentary in the private, but this is great
in
for
own backyard.
For Palantir to have there's...
Okay, so overall... what did I tell you guys? I told you guys I was 0% scared about Palantir's earnings, and sure enough, they came through, did what they had to do as far as their numbers. Once again, we'll dive super deep into those numbers on that Twitch live stream here today, but they did what needed to be done. I was 0% scared going in, 0% scared going out, and something happened on that conference call, I can tell you that. I'll have to listen to that conference call. Something happened there. Maybe multiple things happened there. I'm going to have to dive into that conference call at some point later today and find out what exactly happened, because the fact that stock was only up, 5% or so initially, and then it's up 20% now. Something happened, if not multiple things, okay? Alrighty, next one up here, Shopify, another one of my stocks, skyrocketing here today. Let's go ahead and dive into this one.
Reporting a gigantic profit beat on third quarter results, and what a treat we have. We have Shopify President Harley Finkelstein. He joins us for First on CNBC Now. Harley, it is always a joy to see you, but on this particular number, it is fantastic to see you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Look, last quarter I came on your show and we talked about this new shape of Shopify that we were building and also the roadmap of the future. When you fast forward till today, what I can tell you is it's working as expected. We are faster, we are leaner, we are way more focused on our mission of becoming the global leader in commerce. We laid out a plan to balance our operational ambition and financial discipline, and the results speak for themselves. Q3 GMV was up 22% to $56 billion. Revenue was up 25% to $1.7 billion, and our cash flow was north of $270 million. And more importantly, or most importantly, I think, is we're seeing more and more of the biggest brands in the world come to Shopify. Companies like Ted Baker and Tom Shoes and Billabong, Quicksilver, LVMH's Pucci and GoPuff. We are really firing on all cylinders right now.
Well, Harley, I think that you've got a couple of great... your ethos is terrific, and your social shopping isn't niche, it's mainstream. And then you are really about being able to shop anywhere, which is what customers want. Tell us about physical stores being discovery for what you do, and the idea that social is now mainstream, not niche.
Yeah, look, we first of all, we believe that future retail is retail everywhere. In fact, our product roadmap is really built around this idea to future-proof companies so they can operate for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And on physical retail in particular, it's really working. We actually saw an outsized growth in offline GMV this past quarter, 26% up year on year in Q3. And with brands like Banana Republic Home, Princess Polly, Sacramento Kings coming to us not just for e-commerce, but also for point of sale. When you look at channels,
he's just name dropping all over the place. So one of my big theses around Shopify, right, and one of the reasons that's interested me to buy Shopify is not just a long runway of growth, but that this company is going to emerge far more profitable. Like, if you've heard me speak about this company the last several weeks and several months, it's that this company is going to be far more profitable than really anybody anticipated. And so let me go ahead and pull up their numbers and see what happened with the earnings per share specifically, because I think this company is going to be a profit beast. Let's check it out. Alrighty, guys, here are the numbers. So sure enough, Shopify absolutely killed it when it came to earnings per share. Q3 non-GAAP EPS 24 cents, that beat by 10 cents, right? And so one of my theses in regards to Shopify is it looks much more expensive than it actually is, because they're going to be able to be far more profitable than really anybody anticipates. And sure enough, that's coming through in the numbers. Now that they're going to this asset-light business model once again, getting away from asset-heavy, which is a route they were trying to go for a little bit there, the profitability you're going to see from this company quarter in and quarter out is going to be pretty darn immense, and they're going to become what I call a serial beater in regards to their earnings per share, in my personal opinion.
For example, our social channels, we also think that the future retail will be dictated by where the consumer wants to buy. And when you sign up for Shopify, you can sell across every single channel in every single market.
Well, I'm so glad that you're the first person, other than, I should say, Shantanu Narayan at Adobe, which talks about AI empowering entrepreneurship, smaller people, because you share with that. You actually harness the power of AI for people who don't have everything, unlike the other big guys who we think have everything. Tell us about democracy.
Yeah, look, as you mentioned, we think we are uniquely positioned here because the AI tools we are building are specifically built for commerce and specifically built for entrepreneurs. Unlike other generative AI products, our AI is not just one particular feature or one particular product. It's integrated across all of Shopify's workflows and products. And what that means for entrepreneurs, specifically in small businesses, is they can run faster with a higher cadence. It means more democratization of the tools that, frankly, traditionally only the largest companies were able to achieve. And now, simply being on Shopify, you get access to Shopify Magic, and that really puts the power of AI into the hands of every single small business and entrepreneur.
Harley, it's Sarah. Does it reflect a consumer that's in better shape than we think? Or is this just moves that you're making? What's the read-through here from these results and your outlook on broader consumer behavior and spending?
Yeah, Sarah,
by the way, I always have a view of Shopify long term. There's two companies I already had a view for the last, several years that they could become trillion-dollar companies. One was NVIDIA, they became it. The other is Shopify. I think long term Shopify is a trillion-dollar type company. There are many that I could see out there, and I'm like, that are far from it right now, that I'm like, I think that could be a trillion-dollar company someday. Shopify is one of those that very few ones that I see, like, they could just scale so long. Like I think they could scale for the next 10, 20 years. And when I think where they're at right now versus the scale they're going to be at in 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now, it's a long runway of growth ahead.
Look, I think the consumer is very resilient. We're on the precipice now of the busiest shopping season of the year, and we're already seeing the power of the consumer. We did a Gallup survey in partnership with Gallup a couple weeks ago. We found that American consumers not only are starting to buy their holiday shopping earlier and earlier each year, but also nearly 3 in 4 U.S. holiday shoppers plan to spend about the same or more on holiday gifts this year compared to last year. And the largest spenders this year is actually going to be Gen Z. The 18 to 29-year-olds are going to be the largest in terms of spend. But the other part to think about is that shoppers are still staying true to small business. Shopping small is really actually quite big business. And most of consumers' favorite brands, whether the smaller ones or the larger ones, are powered by Shopify. And we think our merchants will continue to see, will continue to be very resilient. We think our merchants are going to see an outsized opportunity this holiday season.
But when I first met you, I thought that maybe Amazon would be the enemy, but maybe you're a bit frenemies. How is that the Buy with Prime app doing?
Yeah. Look, what matters to merchants most, Jim, is choice. And we want to give merchants the ability to sell across every surface on the internet or in person possible. And so we recently announced Amazon's Buy with Prime app will be in the Shopify's App Store in a few weeks. And what that's going to do is it's going to give merchants the option to add Buy with Prime on Shopify's checkout. And it's all processed by Shopify Payments. And so giving our merchants more choice to grow and scale without ever having to leave the Shopify admin, we think is critical to our mission of making commerce better for everyone. So, whether it's a company like Amazon or it's any of the other payment providers we work with or fulfillment providers we work with, giving these merchants choice means that Shopify will become the most important piece of software in their business and will be the heart of their business.
Nice. Harley, thank you so much for coming on and giving us a story I think that is about.
So Shopify up 20, percent today. Is Shopify still a buy after this huge move? The answer to that is absolutely for anybody that's a long-term investor, right? If you have a long-term horizon in the next 3, 5, 7 years, no doubt, right? No doubt. This company is, coming in, starting to knock the ball out of the ballpark, and the earnings per share, I think, is just going to continue to skyrocket over the next many years. It has such a long runway of growth on the revenue side, and the bottom line has even a further runway of growth, in my personal opinion, ahead. So, yeah, very exciting, obviously, for Shopify over this next several years. Alrighty, let's listen to the Big Short Man and hear what his perspective is on the market, the Fed, everything that's going on here.
I hesitate to put words in your mouth, so I'm not going to do that. But let me just say this last time, a matter of record, you said, no, on the banks. Do not invest in the banks. And what I interpreted that to mean was that credit conditions were tightening even though the Fed hadn't made any moves recently. And we saw the 10-year move up above 5% in the absence of any Fed hikes, which is sort of the market doing some of the work for the Fed. Is that true?
Kind of.
Okay.
I mean, I've said many times the banks right now are uninvestable, and it's 3 reasons. Number one, they're losing deposits.
Okay.
So net interest margins are going down. Loan growth is tepid at best because they're losing deposits. And the regulators have raised capital requirements again, and that's not even hit returns, and they won't hit returns until sometime next year or the year afterwards. And we haven't even had a credit cycle yet.
Does this all indicate to you that it's only a matter of time till something else breaks, like 6 months ago or whenever that was? Is that on the horizon? Or
I mean, look, if I knew what would break, I'd tell you.
Does Jay Powell think it's possible something?
I'm sure he thinks it's possible. Let me just change gears for a second. I thought the most interesting part of this earnings season was comparing Visa to TransUnion. Because Visa showed the consumer is still spending, and it didn't beat volume, it didn't miss volume, it was exactly in line. So the consumer in terms of his or her spending is fine. But TransUnion came on and basically said that loan volume on the consumer side has collapsed. That the bank tightening, the higher rates is causing loan volume really to go down a lot. The fact that TransUnion was down 25% in one day is literally shocking that a company like that could be down that much. But that
TransUnion, I don't even know if I've ever used TransUnion, to be honest. Visa, I think absolutely is a big dog everybody should always pay attention to on what's going on with the economy.
Economy yet? I mean, the
wait a minute, what did he say?
Is that
what did he say here? What did he say?
But that hasn't hit the economy yet. I mean,
so basically saying the Fed lags have not hit the economy yet. Interesting.
The yin and yang is that the consumer is still healthy, but they can't spend money on big ticket items because they can't borrow.
Yep.
So they're spending it, and maybe that's why Starbucks was so good. They're spending it on a more expensive coffee.
What I'm hearing, and it's sort of a nuance that I wasn't considering. If loan growth slows, it's not necessarily because demand is slowing with people who want loans. It could be that deposits have fled, so the banks are...
Well, the banks are tightening, and also you're not buying a house at an 8% mortgage.
Exactly.
So you can't afford it.
So in that case, it is because...
Yes, the part of the economy that I think is the most worrisome right now is anything that's a large ticket that the consumer needs to borrow.
What I've been saying for the last year and a half, 2 years.
So house, auto, solar panel, etc. Everything else seems to be doing okay on the consumer side.
When we try to, we've also had some discussions today about coincident versus leading indicators versus the rear view mirror that the Fed uses. Do you think the Fed is trying to look ahead now and finally trying to anticipate rather than react?
That's a good question.
Yes, I do, but I listened to Powell's press conference, and I think he's just as confused by all the different data points as everybody else. That's why he wants to pause, because he doesn't know what to do.
Yes.
Will there be another hike?
I have no idea.
What would you do?
I'd wait. See what the data says. You've already raised rates so much. Another 25 basis points from here is not meaningful. It's more of a messaging. So wait till you.
But are you expecting in a year from now that he's going to be lowering rates?
No, I don't. I don't actually think we're going to, unless we have a very bad recession. I don't think we're going to see the Fed.
That's a big statement. Steve Eisman basically doesn't think the Fed's going to raise rates in the next year, which means he thinks the economy is going to be just fine for the next year, right? You got to read through these tea tree leaves, as I like to call it, right? You got to read through it and kind of see what he's saying without saying it. He basically just said he expects the economy to be good for the next year. Because if he was expecting the Fed to lower rates in next year, then that means he was expecting a recession. So he's not actually expecting a recession in the next year, which is an interesting statement, once again, from Mr. Big Short.
Rates. I think Powell is still petrified of what happened to Volcker in the early 80s.
So those folks are saying buy bonds right now, right? By 10 years, because, rates are going to come down. You don't think that's the case?
I think that's way too early to make that kind of prediction. I wouldn't be doing that.
You think he's terrified of what happened to Volcker when he lowered rates?
When he lowered rates and inflation resurged, that would be the worst possible outcome that could happen to the country and for Powell's reputation. I think he lives in more fear of that than a recession.
Yep. No doubt.
Couldn't you start buying banks now and buy them if they go lower? I mean, they've come down a lot, right? Still don't touch them.
One thing I've learned in my career over the years is that buying something just because it's cheap is a value trap, and shorting something because it's very expensive is a death wish. So, yes, the banks are cheap by any metric. So what?
What he just said there, by the way, what he just freaking said there was so true. I've definitely found myself in plenty of value traps over the past 15 years. And, buying a stock because it's cheap. And a lot of times it just ends up being a value trap in the end, especially if you don't see that business model getting considerably better in future years. So 100% he's right on. And also, you can't short a stock just because it's got a high valuation. It's got to be something that you think fundamentally is going to go wrong in the business model in order for a short to be successful. Like, just because it's expensive, like, great companies trade expensive all the freaking time, and they always will.
So what do they say? The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. Right now, people are completely indifferent to banks. Now, maybe that's a good sign to buy them if you have a very, very long-term time horizon. But the thing that bothers me the most is that returns are going to go down just because of the increase in capital requirements. So what's your rush?
Yeah, is there anything to you that indicates we either avoid a recession or go into a recession in the next year?
I mean, right now, I'm still surprised by how strong the economy is, given how much rates have gone up. So I'm not willing to make any bet that we're going to go into.
Kaplan's on later, isn't he?
Yep.
Today?
Yeah.
Kaplan, former Dallas.
I know him personally.
Yeah. I had a sort of an awakening when he said, we're spending a lot of money fiscally in the economy. As long as we're doing that, the economy is not going to slow.
He could be right.
That's part of it.
I mean, the fiscal stimulus from all the infrastructure stuff that I've spoken at hasn't even hit.
Yeah, that
hasn't been spent. It's not going to happen until next year.
Hey,
Interesting.
Steve, before you go, I want to pivot the conversation 1 second, just because I know you're a major benefactor to the University of Pennsylvania.
I wouldn't say major, but a benefactor.
You're a significant benefactor to the University of Pennsylvania, and I believe you've gotten involved in this sort of larger debate about what's happening in universities right now.
Yes.
What's going on?
Well, I mean, your interview with Mark Rowan woke me up a bit, and my history with the University of Pennsylvania is pretty deep. I went there, my wife went there, we met there. My sister went there, my brother-in-law went there, and they met there. So a lot of members of my family have been there. I've gone back to the university many times to speak. After a couple of days after the interview, I called my contact person at the university, and I said, we have a small scholarship that we created about a dozen years ago, and I called my contact and I said I wanted our names removed from it immediately. I do not want my family's name associated with the University of Pennsylvania ever.
What?
What was the response?
What?
She was very nice. She understood, and she has gotten a lot of calls like that, and she said she would take care of it.
Is there anything they could do to change your mind?
Yeah, you could fire the president and the chairman of the board of trustees immediately.
What's going on?
I believe they're having a board meeting today.
Well, I doubt they're going to do anything, but that's the only thing that would even move me at all.
What's going on?
I mean, this is something that's played out again and again. And Larry Summers pointed to a letter that came from the Association of University Heads in Israel today, with a long letter that they have that's out just talking about how there should be no moral equivalency when you're looking at a nation defending itself versus terrorist attacks that come through.
Let me just say one thing. One of the things that the protesters are saying, and one of the things I really sincerely believe, is that when people tell you who they are, you should believe them. And the protesters, their slogan is "Free Palestine from the river to the sea." The river is the Jordan River, and the sea is the Mediterranean. And free Palestine from the river to the sea means get rid of all the Jews.
Oh.
The Nazis had a different way of saying it. It was Judenrein, no Jews. What we have in the
this conversation
right
took a turn I was not expecting.
Dressed up in the clothing of progressivism is pure hatred of Jews. In my view, is any student who holds up a sign that says "Free Palestine from the river to the sea" should be expelled. Mm-hmm. That's not free speech. That's calling for murder.
Okay. You think I got a comment on that? Hell no. Like, what? I was not expecting us to take that turn. Oh my gosh. Whoa. Okay, Mr. Steve Eisman. I knew I should have shut it off when it was right about here. I was like, that's probably about enough. But I really want to hear what he had to say. So I didn't know there was all this controversy at the university. Holy smokers, that's no ding jokers. Appreciate y'all joining me as always. Thanks so much, folks. I'll be hopping on Twitch here as soon as I release this video. Big day. We got to go super in depth on the Palantir numbers, Shopify numbers. Apple's coming out after the bell. We're going to react to that live. It's going to be a busy live stream. If you're looking to apply to join private group, description area, you can fill out an application. We see if we can get you in there this week. Much love and have a great day.